My brother stole my inheritance after I paid his tuition, so I exposed him publicly and left him. Begging for a second chance, I grew up faster than I ever wanted to. While other kids spent their evenings playing video games or hanging out after school, I was stacking shelves at a corner store at 16 because my parents couldn't keep up with bills. I remember the smell of detergent clinging to my uniform, the ache in my back, and the quiet resentment that built whenever I looked over at my younger brother. Ethan sleeping in, laughing with friends, being told by our parents that he was destined for great things. I used to wonder what it felt like to be adored just for existing. "Can you cover the electricity bill this month?" "We're a little short," my mom would say gently, as if she were asking me to pass the salt at dinner. My dad would add, "We appreciate you stepping up, son," before turning to Ethan with a smile and asking about his day, his hobbies, his dreams. Ethan would stretch lazily and shrug, same old, thinking about trying photography, and they'd encourage him like he'd just announced a groundbreaking innovation. Meanwhile, I was juggling 2 part-time jobs, school, and the growing weight of being the family's safety net. I paid for groceries. I paid for my school supplies. I paid when the car broke down. The house always felt cold in winter because we kept the heat low to save money, and I'd wrap myself in blankets while studying, breathing fog into the air. Wondering if this was all my life would ever be, but every time I tried to step back, my parents had the same phrase ready: "Just help Ethan until he gets on his feet. You're the strong one." The problem was, Ethan never tried to get on his feet, and the part that still makes my stomach twist, I had a savings fund, my grandparents' inheritance. The one thing that was supposed to be mine, the one thing I didn't realize would soon be at risk. I should have known things were about to get worse the moment Ethan strolled into the living room one evening, spinning his car keys like he was some celebrity making an appearance. "So," he said, grinning wide, "I got into Ridgeview University." My parents gasped like he'd just been accepted into NASA. My mom hugged him. My dad clapped his back, and I just stood there half proud, half terrified because I already knew where this was going. At dinner, Mom cleared her throat. "Sweetheart, Ethan needs help with tuition." "We can't afford it," Dad followed. "It's a great opportunity for him. You know how hard life has been for us. If you could just pitch in for the first year, we'll figure out the rest." Ethan sat there, looking at me with big, hopeful eyes, saying softly, "Just until I get settled, bro." Inside, I felt something sink. I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream that I'd been the one sacrificing for years while Ethan drifted through life untouched. But all that came out was a quiet, "How much do you need?" My voice felt like sandpaper. The kitchen lights buzzed above us, flickering slightly, almost like they were warning me. The next few weeks felt like a blur of online transactions and tuition forms. I watched my inheritance shrink, little by little. Every withdrawal hit me like a punch. "You're helping your brother build a future," Mom reminded me whenever I hesitated. "You're doing the right thing." But why did doing the right thing feel like bleeding out slowly? Then the calls started. "Hey bro, my textbooks are crazy expensive. Can you send man, my roommates want to split rent?" "You think you could?" "My laptop died. I need a new one. I can't study without it." Each message sounded urgent, dramatic, like Ethan was hanging from a cliff by his fingertips, and I was the only rope keeping him alive. But what hurt the most wasn't the money, it was realizing. Ethan had gotten comfortable asking, and my parents had gotten comfortable expecting. Yet the worst part? My savings were draining faster than I ever imagined, and I hadn't even seen the real trap. Closing in, I didn't realize how quickly helping could turn into a full-time responsibility until Ethan's calls became a predictable rhythm in my life. Every morning, every week, every month, there was always something new he desperately needed. At first, I wanted to believe he was genuinely trying. I wanted to believe college had changed him, that he was finally stepping into adulthood. But the more I listened, the more I heard the same pattern: excuses, emergencies, and emotional manipulation wrapped in a casual, entitled tone. One night, while I was finally lying down after a 12-hour shift, my phone buzzed again. "Ethan, bro, I'm short on rent. Please, man. My roommates are threatening to kick me out. I called him immediately. Where's all your money going, Ethan? I asked, exhaustion bleeding into my voice. Dude, why are you interrogating me? College is expensive, he snapped. In the background, I could hear loud music, laughter, bottles clinking. Are you at a party? I asked, a beat of silence. Then he scoffed. Can't I have a life? You're acting like my dad? His words stung more than I wanted to admit. I sent him the money anyway. Meanwhile, my own life was shrinking. I gave up plans for a new car because Ethan needed help. I skipped a rare vacation opportunity because Ethan forgot to pay for textbooks. Even simple comforts like eating out once a month felt like luxuries I couldn't justify anymore. My whole world revolved around keeping him afloat, while he floated effortlessly. When my parents called to praise him, I felt something inside me twist. Ethan says he's working so hard, Mom said proudly. You should be proud of him too. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. They believed every word. I was the reliable mule. He was the delicate genius. But the facade cracked when one of Ethan's classmates posted photos online. Ethan at clubs. Ethan on road trips, Ethan flashing watches I definitely didn't pay for. My stomach churned as I scrolled through picture after picture. The truth hit me like ice water. He wasn't struggling. He was using me. And the next time he called, I felt something inside me finally snap. By the time winter rolled around, I was already numb to Ethan's constant demands. But nothing prepared me for what I stumbled into next. It happened on a quiet Sunday morning when I stopped by my aunt's house to help her fix a broken cabinet. She's one of the few relatives who actually sees the truth about my family, who knows how much I carry. As we worked, she casually mentioned something that made my hands freeze midair. So, have you checked on your grandparents' property lately? She asked. I frowned. What do you mean? There's nothing to check. It's just sitting there until I'm ready. She gave me a strange look. Honey, your parents told me Ethan was getting a share now. Didn't you two agree to split it? My heart slammed against my ribs. What? No. That property was willed to me. Why would Ethan get anything? She blinked slowly, confusion turning into concern. That's not what your parents said. For a moment, the room felt smaller, thick. My pulse loud in my ears. I excused myself, stepping outside into the cold air just to breathe. The winter wind cut into my cheeks, but it didn't clear the fog in my head. I called my mom immediately. Mom, did you tell Aunt Linda that Ethan is getting part of the property? She sighed as if I was being dramatic. Sweetheart, it's only fair. You make more money than him. You can help him get on his feet. Family shares everything. Not that, I snapped, my voice breaking. Grandpa left that to me. He wouldn't want you to be selfish, she replied sharply. Selfish. The word echoed like a slap. When I got home, Ethan was in the living room, scrolling through his phone with that same lazy confidence. He glanced at me and smiled, almost too warmly. Hey bro, we should hang out more. You and me, just like old times. And suddenly, I knew something was wrong. Terribly wrong. That smile wasn't affection. It was strategy. And I had no idea how deep his plans had already gone. I couldn't shake the feeling gnawing at my spine. So the next morning, before work, I drove straight to the county records office. The building smelled like old paper and cold dust. And each click of my shoes against the tiled floor echoed the dread tightening in my chest. When I reached the front desk, my voice cracked slightly as I said, Hi. I need to check the ownership status of a property under my grandparents' name. The clerk typed, paused, then looked up with a polite, practiced smile. Do you have the parcel number? I do. My hands trembled as I handed it over. Seconds later, she said the words that knocked the air out of me. Oh, this property was transferred 6 months ago. Transferred, I whispered, leaning forward. To who? She turned her monitor slightly. And Ethan Reynolds. The room spun. A cold, metallic ringing filled my ears, as if someone had slammed a bell beside my head. I forced myself to speak. That's a mistake. It's supposed to be in my name. She shrugged gently. All the documentation is here. Signatures, approvals, everything filed properly. Signatures. I stared at the screen, and there it was, my name. My forged signature sitting on a legal transfer document. Ethan had taken the one thing I had left my inheritance by signing my name without my knowledge. I stormed out, barely remembering how I reached my car. My hands shook so violently I had to sit still for a full minute just to breathe. When I finally confronted my parents later that evening, they didn't look shocked. They looked annoyed. "Why are you making this a big deal?" Mom said. Dad muttered, "Ethan needed the property more." "You'll be fine. We'll help them with tuition." "This is no different," Mom added. No different. I snapped, chest burning. It's fraud. It's literally illegal. Ethan appeared in the doorway, calm as ever. "Bro, relax. It's just property. You're acting crazy." That was the moment something inside me broke. Not from weakness, but from awakening. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had planned it together. And I wasn't even close to seeing how deep that betrayal went. I wish I could say I reacted with strength, with clarity, with some grand sense of justice, but the truth? I fell apart, completely, after the confrontation. I drove home with my vision blurring, my chest tight, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from shattering. When I finally stepped into my apartment, the silence felt suffocating. I sank onto the floor and stayed there for what felt like hours, staring at the wall while my entire world collapsed around me. My phone buzzed nonstop. "Mom, stop overreacting. Dad, family shares." "Ethan, dude, chill. You'll thank me someday." Their words stabbed deeper than the betrayal itself. It wasn't just the property. It wasn't just the money. It was the realization that the people I spent my entire life supporting emotionally, financially, physically, never saw me as family. Not really. They saw me as a resource, a safety net, a tool. The next morning, I checked my bank account, hoping maybe there was something left for me to hold on to. They're dumped. Between Ethan's tuition, his living expenses, the emergencies, the property transfer fees, and the bills I'd been covering for my parents, I had almost nothing. Less than a month's worth of living expenses. My hands went cold. My heartbeat pounded in my throat. How did I let this happen? I whispered to myself. The apartment felt darker than usual, shadows clinging to the corners like reminders of how blind I'd been. I replayed every moment where I said yes when I wanted to say no. Every time I tried to set a boundary and got guilted into stepping back. Every sacrifice I made believing family meant something mutual. That day, I didn't get out of bed. Not to eat. Not to check messages. Not to do anything. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of years of manipulation crawling up my spine, but rock bottom. It's a strange way of clearing your vision. Because as the sun set, a single thought cut through the darkness. If they took everything from me, then I have nothing left to lose, and for the first time in years. Something dangerous and determined stirred inside me. When I woke up the next morning, something inside me had shifted. The pain was still there, raw, pulsing, heavy, but it wasn't paralyzing anymore. It was sharpening, focusing, like a blade being pulled across stone. I sat up slowly, wiped my face, and opened my laptop with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. If my own family saw me as nothing more than a wallet, then I'd treat this like business. Cold, methodical, documented. The first thing I did was pull every bank statement from the last 4 years. Line by line, each transfer to Ethan stared back at me. Rent payments, tuition, laptops, emergencies. My stomach twisted as I tallied them up. It felt like reliving the betrayal in slow motion. I whispered to myself, you did all of this for him, and he still took more. Then I dove into the property records again this time, requesting copies of every document filed. When I opened the scanned signatures, my breath caught in my throat. This isn't even close to my handwriting, I muttered. I pulled out old documents with my real signature for comparison. Side by side, the difference was obvious. Even a blind man could see the forgery. I sent everything to a lawyer recommended by my aunt, a quiet, meticulous man named Harris. During our meeting, he skimmed through the documents with growing disbelief. "This is textbook fraud," he said. "Property theft, forgery, identity misuse, and depending on how the funds were moved, possibly even financial coercion." I swallowed hard. "So, I have a case." "You don't have a case," he corrected. "You have a winning case." For the first time in months, hope flickered through my small, hesitant but real. Harris told me to keep collecting evidence and, most importantly, to stay quiet. Let him keep talking. People this entitled always slip. And like clockwork, Ethan did. As I scrolled through his social media, I found posts of vacations, clubs, and luxury items purchases far beyond what his student lifestyle should allow. One caption stopped me cold. "When you know how to get what you want, life becomes easy." He had no idea I was watching, no idea, was documenting, and absolutely no idea what was coming next. The more evidence I gathered, the more I realized Ethan wasn't just careless, he was proud of what he'd done. His social media painted a picture of someone living far beyond the means of a struggling student. Rooftop parties, weekend getaways, designer clothes. Every post felt like another slap across my face, another reminder of how deeply he'd taken advantage of me. But as furious as I was, I stayed quiet. Harris' voice echoed in my head. "Silence is your advantage. Let him get comfortable." One night while scrolling, I stumbled across a post that changed everything. Ethan had shared an invite for a housewarming celebration, complete with a photo of the property that should have been mine. A big, showy outdoor setup with lights, speakers, luxury decor rentals. The caption read, "Can't wait to celebrate what hard work can achieve." Hard work? My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I called Harris immediately. "He's hosting a public event," I said. "Family, friends, everyone will be there." There was a pause, then his measured voice. "That might be your moment." My moment for what? To expose him where he can't twist the narrative, publicly, cleanly. The idea settled into me like a cold, satisfying weight. For once, I wouldn't be the quiet older brother funding his life in the shadows. I would be the one holding the truth loud, irrefutable, undeniable. So I started preparing. I organized every bank transfer into folders. I printed screenshots of messages and social media posts. I highlighted the forged signatures. Harris helped me structure it all into a clean timeline, one even a crowd of strangers could understand. I bought a small projector, a portable speaker. I rehearsed what I would say over and over, till the words burned into my tongue. Meanwhile, my parents kept calling me with their usual script. "Make sure you congratulate your brother. Be supportive. This is a big moment for him. You should be proud. He's finally settling down." Proud? I felt something cold, razor sharp, settle in my chest. Wasn't going to congratulate Ethan. I was going to end the version of him the world thought they knew, and he had absolutely no idea the storm he'd invited into his own housewarming. The night of Ethan's housewarming felt surreal. As I pulled up to the property, the one that should have been mine, the lights were so bright they spilled onto the street. Laughter drifted across the yard. Glasses clinked. Music thumped lightly in the background. Every detail screamed celebration, comfort, entitlement. The kind of life Ethan had stolen from me. I sat in my car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, feeling my heartbeat thud through my palms. Then I exhaled slowly, grabbed the folder of evidence, and stepped out. Inside, Ethan was in full performance, modarms wide, big smile, soaking up admiration like sunlight. "Bro, you made it," he shouted, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a trap than affection. I forced a smile. Yeah, wouldn't miss it. If he noticed the strain in my voice, he didn't care. The room was full friends, extended family, neighbors. My parents were near the drinks table, laughing proudly. As if they'd built this place with their bare hands instead of my bank account. Ethan raised a glass. "Everyone, thank you for coming," he announced. "This home represents hard work, dedication actually," I cut in, my voice steady, but loud enough to slice through the noise. I think people should know what it really represents." The room quieted instantly. I walked to the center, plugged in my little projector, and with a single click, the first slide lit up the wall. "Bank transfers my name to Ethan's." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "What is this?" Someone whispered. I spoke clearly. "Every month, for 4 years, I paid Ethan's bills. Tuition, rent, everything." Another click, screenshots of Ethan begging for money while posting vacation photos. Murmurs grew louder. My parents took a step forward, panic flashing across their faces. "Stop this right now," my mother hissed. I ignored her. Another click, property documents. My forged signature magnified on the wall. Ethan's face went white. "Bro, this is out of context." "No," I said sharply. "This is fraud, theft, manipulation, and you counted on me staying quiet." Silence. Dozens of eyes turned on him, judgmental. Stunned, disgusted, and on pressing charges, I finished, my voice cold. Then I walked out, leaving Ethan trembling, my parents speechless, and the truth echoing behind me like a slammed door. But the fallout. That was only just beginning. The morning after the housewarming felt strangely quiet, almost too quiet. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't filled with demands, guilt trips, or Ethan's endless emergencies. Instead, I woke up to a different kind of chaos. Missed calls, voicemails, messages ranging from shock to disbelief. The fallout from last night had detonated across our family like a bomb. Every piece was landing exactly where it should have. The first voicemail was from my mother, her voice sharp and trembling. "How could you humiliate your brother like that? You made us look terrible. Call me back immediately." I deleted it. The next was my dad's frustrated growl. "You've blown things out of proportion. You need to fix this before things get worse." Delete. Then came Ethan's voice, broken, frantic. "Bro, please, just answer. We can talk. I didn't think it would go this far. Please, don't ruin my life." I almost laughed. Ruin his life? He had spent years draining mine. Later that afternoon, Harris called with updates. "Your brother's in trouble," he said plainly. "The forged signature alone is enough for a criminal case. But the financial trail? It's airtight." A slow breath left my chest. "What happens now?" "We file formally. The property gets frozen. And Ethan will face charges unless he negotiates a settlement with everything transferred back and restitution included." For the first time, the scales felt like they were shifting. News spread quickly. Ethan's university got wind of the investigation. Rumors swirled about academic misconduct, unethical behavior, and financial fraud. Friends who once praised him now distanced themselves, leaving comments like, "Wow, fake success." And bro really used his own family. His perfect image cracked under the weight of truth. My parents tried one last time, showing up outside my apartment. "Please," Mom begged. "You're tearing the family apart." "No," I replied quietly. "You tore it apart when you chose him over the truth." I closed the door as their voices faded into the hallway. Ethan had lost his reputation, his support, and his illusion of invincibility. But I still had one more thing to take back the life he tried to replace with his own. For the first time in my adult life, I woke up without a knot in my stomach. No missed calls from my parents telling me what I needed to do. No frantic messages from Ethan begging for money. No obligations hanging over my head like a storm cloud. The silence in my apartment felt different now, less like isolation and more like relief. A clean slate. A life that finally belonged to me. The first step I took was practical. I opened a new bank account. One only I had access to. As I typed in the password, my hands trembled not from fear, but from a strange, quiet thrill. For once, every cent I earned would stay mine. I grabbed a notebook and began listing goals I'd put off for years, rebuilding my savings, upgrading my tiny car, taking a weekend trip, maybe even enrolling in a course I actually cared about. The list grew longer than I expected. Then came the emotional work. Therapy. Real therapy. Not to be strong for the family facade I'd been living behind. My therapist, a patient woman with kind eyes, listened as I unloaded years of suppressed resentment. "It sounds like you were conditioned to believe your needs didn't matter," she said softly. I swallowed hard. "Yeah, I think I believed it too. Not anymore," she replied. Slowly, I rebuilt not just my bank account, but my identity. Supportive relatives reached out, cousins, uncles, even a few friends who admitted they always suspected Ethan took advantage of me. Their messages felt like small patches on a wound I thought would never close. "You did the right thing. Proud of you for standing up for yourself." Finally, someone exposed him. Meanwhile, Ethan spiraled. Word of his fraud spread through our extended family. Universities don't take kindly to scandals. His friends distanced themselves. His social media went silent. And then, late one night, my phone buzzed. A long message from Ethan apologizing, begging, swearing he'd changed. Calling me his only real brother? I stared at the screen for a long time, my chest tight. I didn't answer, because deep down, I knew the hardest part was still coming. Ethan didn't give up after that message. The next morning, he showed up at my apartment, something he hadn't done in years, unless he needed money. When I opened the door, he looked nothing like the confident, charming golden child who once laughed at how easy life was. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes swollen, his clothes wrinkled like he hadn't slept. For a brief second, I felt the familiar urge to take care of him. The instinct burned into me since childhood. But then he spoke. "Please, can we talk?" he whispered, voice cracking. I stepped aside but didn't invite him in. "Say it here." He swallowed hard. I messed up. "Oh." But I was scared. "I thought you'd always be there for me. I thought you could handle everything better than me." I raised a hand. "Ethan, don't make this about fear. You stole from me. You forged my name. You used me for years. You didn't think I'd always be there? You counted on it." He winced like the words physically hit him. "I need your help," he whispered. "I'm losing everything. School's threatening suspension. I can't afford a lawyer. Mom and Dad. They said you could fix this. Please, man." "You're my brother." Standing in that hallway, the smell of cold morning air drifting in, I realized something painfully clear. Ethan wasn't sorry. He was desperate. Desperate because his safety net, the one he'd drained dry, was finally gone. For years. My parents convinced me that being the strong one meant sacrificing myself for family. But now, strength meant choosing myself for the first time. "No," I said quietly. "I'm done carrying you. I'm done saving people who never once tried to save me." His face crumbled. "So that's it?" "That's it," I said, stepping back and gently closing the door. I leaned against it, my breath shaking, not from guilt, but from a strange, overwhelming sense of freedom. They took my money. They took my inheritance. They took years of my life. But they didn't get the one thing that mattered most, me. And for the first time, walking away didn't feel like losing family. It felt like finally coming home to myself.